Hello and welcome to episode 84 of the Player 3 podcast. I am your host, Luke Croft, and alongside me, we have the always visually stunning Larry Hunt.
Ahoy.
It's just you and I today, my friend.
Aye.
On today, the perennial day of spring.
And it'd be talking like a pirate day.
Is it?
Aye.
Oh, that's right, because I was reading back on our memories from a few years ago where I hung out with you all day and you did not speak like a pirate.
I saw that too. That's what reminded me that it was talking like a pirate day.
All right, hold on. I'm about to bring this up.
You already brought it up.
No. I'm about to bring it
In
up.
many
Like on my
ways.
phone, I'm about to bring up the conversation that you and I had because it's important, I feel like, for us to bring this up. So where was I going? I have memories with you and Benjamin D. Hankins.
The D stands for
Diarrhea.
disenfranchised.
Stupid millennials. Oh, man. Let's see. Had dinner with Larry Hunt today, and not even once did he speak like a pirate.
Guilty.
And then you tried to make up for it by just responding in pirate to everything that I said.
Right?
And I wasn't having any of that, you know.
Uh-huh.
So, just going to go through this conversation here. You said, theological discussion be hard to have in a pirate's manner of speaking, matey. I said, whatever. Hey, everyone. Larry Hunt is a big, fat phony. Good to see that here we are 3 years from now and nothing's changed.
I'm still not convinced you're going to be serious about this podcasting thing.
Even though it's over 2 years since we started the podcast, boys and girls, I'm very, very excited to
This
be here.
podcast is older than my child.
Guys, it is. That's cool. When did you have your baby?
October 24th. She was due on the 27th, which would have had her sharing a birthday with Halo 5 and Taylor Swift's 1989 album, but
The kid decided to either wait or come early. I really wasn't listening to the story. I'm sorry, Larry. Oh, it's an unusual podcast for us tonight because it is tonight and not during the day. Currently, it is 7:57 local time. I had to work till 6. Larry couldn't be here because his wife was out of town. And apparently you're not allowed to leave a child at home by themselves to take care of themselves when they're 2 years old and potty training.
unless they'll leave the burners on, but you can't be sure they're not going to turn them off.
Right. Even when you're like, Remy, do not touch the stove. The burners are on for a reason.
Right.
Fire safety. Stop, drop, and roll. My favorite dance. You ever like to just go to the movies and pay your entrance fee so you can yell fire in the middle of that thing?
No.
Me either. All right. We are the Player 3 podcast. We get together every Monday to talk about video games, push this out to you over on twitch.tv/player3podcast, over on youtube.com/player3podcast, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher. Larry has a question. I will call upon him right now. Larry.
Before we get serious about video games, can I just bring up one more great thing that happened this week?
Sure thing. And I'm going to look at when fall starts. Do you know when fall starts is today?
No.
The 21st?
I don't know.
I think it's soon. I think we're in the week of.
If you haven't experienced the Cringe Fest,
Hey Siri, when does fall start? I wonder if she understands when. Fall begins Thursday. Go ahead.
Thursday. If you haven't experienced the Cringe Fest yet, you need to get over to YouTube and look up Corey Feldman's performance on Good Morning America.
Got nothing to lose, so baby, let's go for it. Go for it. He even had like the single strand hair. It was almost like if Michael Jackson got a little darker and tried to do his moves while just completely either hammered if he wasn't hammered when he did it or sober if he was hammered when he did it. So
It was.
go check it out.
It's hard to watch.
I buy into this conspiracy theory, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm all in, which I'm all in on just about every conspiracy theory at this point. Like that Hillary Clinton died on September 11th this year, and it's a body double that came out of Chelsea Clinton's apartment. Burden of proof's on you guys. That's the way the Fifth Amendment works. That's the way our whole entire Constitution works. The way our nation is built, it's built on a bed of questions you're not allowed to question without 100% proof of the answers. So my question is it not? Is it actually Hillary Clinton? It's not. and you have to prove that it is in order for it to actually be Hillary Clinton. So within that, she's disqualified.
Right.
So my question to you is, Barack Obama third term presidency, yay or nay?
Nay.
All right, I was wondering if we were going to go for the whole FDR thing.
I just don't like odd numbers.
I understand. All right. How are you doing, my friend?
Pretty good.
You? I'm good. I'm good. I have tomorrow off. I have this delicious Powerade sitting in front of me. I'm going to pour a little bit of it into your water, though.
I have to get a cavity filled tomorrow.
What?
Yeah. That's not fun.
You should take better care of yourself.
I know. I went like 16 years without going to the dentist.
Oh, gosh.
1 out of 10 I do not recommend.
So I did that as well. Not 16 years. I did go 5 years. And I take piss poor care of my teeth. I haven't brushed in weeks.
Right.
I'm just kidding. I brush multiple times a day. However, my flossing has always been poor. Do you floss? Now
On
we're
and
deep
off.
diving. If you don't want to put this out in public, if this is too personal.
On and off. Like
Okay.
I'll do it for a couple weeks and then not for a couple weeks.
Are those couple weeks always the couple weeks after you go to the dentist and they berate you for
No.
not flossing enough?
No.
See, okay.
I've never been lectured on that by a dentist.
Really?
They're always like, "Oh, I guess you floss," or they don't say anything.
Okay, so I went 5 years without going to the dentist, and when I went back, I had a 10-minute appointment. It was supposed to be a cleaning. It turned into a 10-minute appointment where they were like, yeah, we can't do anything for you right now because we're going to have to numb your entire mouth. And it took 2 appointments for them to clean my teeth.
Nice.
So floss, number 1, because that's bad. I also didn't learn that lesson because I still have a terrible time flossing. And last time I went to the dentist, I'm not kidding, dude. My dentist had to have told me no less than 17 times that I needed to start flossing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was finally like, look, I understand. I need to floss. You don't need to keep reminding me of it while you're poking and prodding at my mouth. Retail's done a number on me, my friend. It's made me an impolite person.
More impolite. It didn't make you impolite.
Very true. Very true. So, but you didn't have a similar experience where they had to numb your entire mouth to clean it after 16 years?
No, I do a pretty good job.
Do you ever eat just candy for dinner?
Yeah.
Well, then I don't see how our situations turned out differently. All right.
I floss sometimes. You floss no times.
That's probably true.
Have you ever seen a calculus bridge
What?
where somebody takes terrible care of their teeth, so they just get covered in plaque, which harden until it looks like one big solid tooth, and they have to use water to cut it apart?
No, this sounds awful.
It's disgusting, but super satisfying to watch. You just got to look that up on YouTube later.
See, I can't even see a picture of a dentist chair without having a little bit of a panic attack. I hate the dentist. I've always hated the dentist, man. Are you one of those people that's like,
Yeah.
dentist, I take it or leave it?
Yeah.
Can you fall asleep in the chair?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Because those people, you deserve to be sent somewhere.
Well, unless they drug me.
Well, yeah.
Then you're going to fall
Have you ever
asleep.
been to a dentist that uses laughing gas?
I've never actually had to have anything like that done.
Oh.
I've never been put under for anything.
All right. I had my wisdom teeth cut out. I think they use But, on cartoons and TV shows, they always show them people getting laughing gas to get, cavities and stuff worked on.
Yeah.
I've always had the Novocaine, but I've never had, laughing gas. Anyway, video games.
Video games.
Let's get this week started like we get every week started with the releases of the week.
Releases of the week.
All right. Releasing on both consoles. Destiny Rise of Iron is coming, along with Destiny the Collection. Destiny the Collection's awesome. $60, you get the base game, you get all of the expansions, and you finally get something that's $60 worth. Unlike the original base game.
So if you've waited to this point, Destiny, worth it.
I would argue it was probably worth it after taking King.
Yeah.
And I say that completely in jest about the $60 now. I feel like they have done a really good job of adding content and making the game better. It's definitely a Diablo 3 it was a different product when it started, and now it's a much better product now. So, I actually thought about getting the collection because I never played the Taken King, and I'm kind of interested in Rise of Iron, but I'm also I'm so far behind. And there's so much stuff I like playing. I really don't have the space in my life right now for a game that takes as much dedication as Destiny does. Destiny is like a World of Warcraft kind of deal where if you play it, it's probably all you play
Mm-hmm.
if you're really serious about it.
Yeah.
Also releasing on both consoles this week. This was interesting to me. Did you read these?
Yes.
Virginia. Virginia is a single-player first-person thriller set in a small town with a secret. Experience a missing persons investigation through the eyes of graduate FBI agent Ann Tarver. I'm having a moment with my throat here.
Sounds a little like Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Missing person, small town with a secret.
Yeah, it
But
does.
I mean, that's a classic thing.
Yeah, that's just horror.
We live in Virginia.
We do, and we live in a small town in Virginia. We
Probably
live in
has
two
secrets.
separate small towns in Virginia.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a secret in my small town.
okay,
There are these
I'm in.
stone pineapples all over town on like old buildings mostly. And nobody can tell me what the pineapple is all about.
Have you tried Googling this?
Yeah. Nothing turns up.
Just psych references.
I think I'm going to break into the Masons Lodge later and see if they're hiding the secrets.
That's cool. You should just join the Masons.
Oh, yeah. They'll just let anybody in.
Yeah. Well, you have to be invited by a Mason.
Maybe if I hang out outside the door and beg for an invite.
I don't know. I don't think I've never been invited to the Masons. I'm pretty sure I know some Masons that would invite me, but I'm really not interested
Same,
in
actually.
selling my soul. I'm not kidding, man. Go read up on the Masons and all the weird stuff that has to happen. Like everyone calls it a secret society, but there are very few secrets left in it. And I don't want to divulge everything that I've learned through my reading because I don't know what I've read because I've read it from someone who isn't supposed to let me know about it or what I've read on the internet. But a lot of crazy things with the Masons, man.
Or what if there is still plenty hidden? They've just released these minor secrets to throw you off track.
Look, man, I'm just saying, drinking blood out of a skull, does it happen? I'll tell you this right now. It doesn't not happen. All right. Virginia. And then just a thing of interest on the PS4, a game called The Bunker. It says, as the last remaining survivor in a nuclear bunker, John's daily routine is the one thing that keeps him sane. But when an alarm goes off, his mind starts to self-destruct. And this was the interesting sentence to me, Larry.
Mm-hmm.
The Bunker is a live-action psychological horror game starring Adam Brown, who is also The Hobbit, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Or was just in The Hobbit, because he's not the guy who played The Hobbit.
I'll find out who you played for you.
All right. Adam Brown and Sarah Green, along with a bunch of other people with colors for last names.
Really?
Starring
Like
in
Reservoir Dogs?
this. With writing... What?
Like Reservoir Dogs?
Yes. With writing talent behind The Witcher, Broken Sword, and Soma. I'm interested to see what it means by a live-action psychological horror game.
He was this weird-looking guy.
Oh, okay. He was one of the 7 dwarves.
Yep.
I can read. All right. So, yeah, those are the things that are releasing this week. Those are your releases of the week. All right. Larry, a lot of horror stuff coming down the pipeline. I'm very, very excited.
Makes sense.
What did I highlight here? Why did I highlight that? All right, let's move on to our newest segment, topics. Topics, yes, we have some topics for you. I'm going to use this little turnaround to say this segment brought to you by Two Left Sticks, the site that I run. And by brought to you by, I mean I just work there. Go check it out. We also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/2leftsticks. We have our first patron.
Oh, is it someone we know?
Yes.
Can I ask who? Or is that secret?
Matt Rosenberg. The guy who took my job.
Yeah.
So, I know him. Have you ever met him?
No.
Okay. So, I know him. But, yeah, head on over to patreon.com/2leftsticks or 2leftsticks.com/Patreon, whichever you prefer. Either one works. And check out our rewards tiers. Check out the $6 tier, the one where you get the greatest picture ever taken every month. Mailed to you, 3.5. 3x5 glossy, hyper glossy. Maybe even super hyper glossy. I don't know. It all depends.
Well, that's a deal.
All right. Our newest segment, topics here. Topics, yeah, we got some topics for you.
Ooh.
My topic is first.
Yeah.
And I did not actually paste the article into here. That's why I did it. So I'm not going to put it up. Anyway, Death Stranding. So Hideo Kojima has talked about Death Stranding at Tokyo Game Show last week, and he has said that it will release in the year of our Lord, 2018. The article from IGN reads this. Death Stranding is due for release in 2018, Hideo Kojima told a huge crowd of fans during an onstage Q&A session at Tokyo Game Show 2016 on Sunday. Quote, "It will be out before the Olympics," end quote, said Kojima, referring to the Tokyo 2020 games. He then went on to say, quote, "To go a little further, there is a movie called Akira, and it will be out before the year in which Akira is set," end quote. Although Kojima had said last week during the PlayStation press conference in Japan that Death Stranding will be an online multiplayer game, he explained during Sunday's stage session that it can also be played solo. Regarding the online elements, he gave very little new information, simply saying, quote, "It will be a different kind of online play than anything we've seen before," end quote. He also said that it will include a female protagonist, but that casting is still underway. So far, the only publicly announced talent in the game is The Walking Dead star Norman Reedus. Kojima echoed this on Twitter. Quote, "This game will show a different side of Norman Reedus than fans of The Walking Dead might expect," end quote. When asked whether Reedus had posed nude in body capture sessions for Death Stranding trailer, Kojima said, quote, "No, he was wearing underwear, unfortunately," end quote. I did not add the "unfortunately" into that quote. That is the actual quote from Hideo Kojima, that he was very, very disappointed in the fact that Norman Reedus was wearing underwear when he filmed the Reedus fetus scene.
Reedus fetus.
Hashtag Reedus fetus.
That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
It was quite odd. Quite symbolic.
I don't know anything about this game.
Look, when you don't understand something, you just say, "Wow, how symbolic." All right?
Got it.
And then when somebody asks what it's a symbol for, you say, "Whatever you want it to be." And then it's just really deep, right? I feel like that's where we're at with Kojima. I feel like Metal Gear ended up this way, where it was just like, wow, that game is so deep. What makes it deep? The fact I don't understand literally anything that's happened in it. Here's my question to you.
Uh-huh.
Well, let's talk first about Death Stranding and this whole odd little way of announcing the date. It's going to be out before the Tokyo Olympics. It's going to be out before Akira. It's going to be out in 2018. That's 2 years from now. Well, a year and a half. We're nearing the end of 2016, which is very odd also. But do you think this is too soon to start talking about this?
In a serious way. I don't know. It makes sense for... Normally I would say yes. But it kind of makes sense for Kojima, given everything that happened with Konami last year and people like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Just him. I take it more as him like kind of settling. All right, here's the game plan. Stop asking me about it. Like I don't consider this like serious detail about this game. Like it's already being hyped. Outside of, it's multiplayer like we've never seen before. It's risky, but I trust Kojima to take the kind of risk.
I think the exact opposite for almost the exact same reason as you just had. I think it's too soon to start talking about Death Stranding because Kojima's name is attached to it, and we don't need a year and a half, 2 years to build up the hype behind it. Like, let Kojima work, let Kojima do his thing, and maybe Kojima's thing is getting up on stage and just kind of flaunting this fame that he's developed over, the last 15 years or whatever. So, but I would much rather it just be like, look, you literally just bought computers for your studio a few months ago. Why don't you hook them up? Like I just don't feel like there's been really any time to start anything. Mm-hmm. And for Death Stranding to be a thing, it's like talking about a dinner party you're going to have before you've even started to plan the dinner party. Like nothing for it has started to come together yet, and yet we're already talking about what we're going to have for dessert. We're talking about online elements and all that sort of stuff, and the talent that's going to be in it. Like let's have a game first. Let's have something to get excited about rather than just a short little trailer that meant really nothing. What? Did we just disconnect?
Why is this happening?
Why is this happening? Let me double check because it doesn't say we went offline on there. Maybe. I sure hope not. Well, that's still us, right?
I think. Or body doubles. Maybe we died. And our body doubles walked on Chelsea Clinton's apartment.
It's so true, man. Anyway, so what like I was saying, and we're just going to leave that in there.
Good.
But what I was saying is I would rather there be something more concrete about this game before we start talking about it and analyzing stuff. You know, like from a site runner standpoint, I don't really want us talking about Death Stranding because there's nothing really to talk about. Like, the only thing I really want us to break down is that quote about Kojima wanting to see Norman Reedus out of his underwear. Like, let's write 1,000 words on that. But outside of that, like, there's nothing to talk about. Nothing. Like, so in my opinion, it is too soon. And it's also too soon because we have already seen just a bevy of not only games, but Sony-backed games that have gotten delayed and pushed. Like, okay, Kojima says this game's coming out in 2018, which probably means this game is coming out in 2020. It'll be here alongside the Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah.
When they circle back Lucio Ball and you can finally get a chance at those summer skins.
And it'll actually be a Tokyo Olympics game by that point.
With nude Norman Reedus, they have mocapped everything. And I mean everything. I feel like that threw you off.
But it's still a very symbolic horror 2020 Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah. Like Reedus has to really sweep gold medals in almost every single event so that Lisa doesn't come and eat him from PT. They'll probably have to name her Lisa with 2 E's so that they can avoid any kind of copyright with Konami.
Yeah.
So that's my topic. Larry, what's your topic, my friend?
My topic is, so today I got on the Xbox One subreddit, and I had to scroll through so many Gears of War 4 posts before I could see anything else going on. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'll check this game out a little bit. So I watched the newest trailer, and then I just started looking at more stuff, and then I started thinking really heavily about the couch co-op component being put on my Xbox One for the first time, really. And I didn't care. Like, I was like, okay, this is a cool game, but I've never actually played one, really, except for 5 minutes at your house once. But I am so pumped for this game. It's going to be awesome. And I really don't have much to converse on it. I just wanted to share with the world that I'm ready for Gears 4.
Well, and you've never really been a Gears guy. Like, have you played any of them? You said you played those few minutes when you were at my house, and that's the most you ever had.
Yeah,
as far as Gears goes, right?
Yeah, and it was fun, but it's always been out alongside another game that I wanted to be playing instead. And now, it'll have to compete with Overwatch, but there's not like a new Halo drop and nothing like that. I don't care about Call of Duty anymore, so Gears, let's do this thing. And
the thing is, even if you did, even if you're interested in Battlefield 1, you have weeks with this game, where there's stuff that's out of the way. And I'm so you're going to love Horde mode, man. Like, I'm not even joking. It is right up your alley. It's all about teamwork. Every 10 levels, you get these boss fights. It's all about strategy and communication, and it gets so freaking intense. It's so good, man. I love Gears Horde mode. And you'll probably get really frustrated with the online.
Yeah.
Gears is one of those really odd things, and I guess Halo can kind of be like this too, where there are 2 camps of people. There are the people that are really, really good, and then everyone else sucks. Like, there's only 2 categories of people online you can be in Gears, and if you find yourself not being able to really adapt to the learning curve of playing in a third-person cover-based shooter online, which is totally different than playing a Halo or an Overwatch, it can get really frustrating really quickly. And maybe this will be a big enough reset because it's been so long since, Gears 3 that there'll be that kind of warm-up period towards it. But yeah, I think the thing you're going to attach yourself to, and I think we'll attach ourselves to, is the Horde mode, just because it's deep and it's addictive. So I'm excited about it. Is there any other series you've ever gotten into at 3 or 4 deep into the game, into the series?
Resident Evil, because Resident Evil 4 was the first one that released on something that besides the PlayStation. I think I played it on the GameCube. Was it on the GameCube?
Probably.
That makes sense. That sounds right. Yeah. So that, like, it was a game I'd played at other people's houses, and I loved it, and I knew I would get it, but if I could, but I couldn't because I was never a PlayStation guy.
Right.
But that's it, really.
I think for me, probably The Witcher. You know, I jumped into The Witcher 3, fell in love with it, and I want to go back and play The Witcher 2 at some point. I heard it doesn't really hold up that well, and Witcher 1's only on PC, and I'm not going to be a complete and total nerd.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and Oblivion.
Yeah.
That was the fourth Elder Scrolls game.
So what were the three before it? Morrowind,
I think Arena, and I think the first one may have just been called Elder Scrolls. I don't know.
Okay.
It would make sense, though.
That's I've spent very little time. I think say this on the podcast all the time. I never really played much of 5 when I got all the way to the top of the mountain only to discover there was a wall there. And I was like, bump this noise. I'm not playing this. But I think I'm going to go back and play the remaster of it. So
yeah.
But I'm much more into experiences that are like 5-6 hours long. So I also don't know if I've got space in my life for a 100-hour game.
Have you seen that elderly lady who plays Skyrim and streams it?
I saw the headline for it. I never opened the story up.
Yeah, it's neat. So apparently she has this huge following, but it's this old lady who plays Skyrim, and people have watched her play. I don't know. We'll have to watch her someday.
Is she good?
I don't know. They didn't say anything about that. They talked about how she enjoyed the worlds, and like we'll talk about how pretty the butterflies were and stuff.
Oh, look at that butterfly. Yeah. Oh, my blood sugar's getting low. Let me pop a Werther's.
Grandma's always got some Werther's.
It's so true. You know what else grandmas have all the time, and I'm not sure where they come from? Those candies, those strawberry candies that come in the wrappers that look like strawberries. I've never seen them in a store before, but does AARP just mail those out?
I think grandmas grow them in their basements.
Oh, okay. So they retire the marijuana from Woodstock, and they just start growing those hard candies.
Yeah.
My grandmother taught me how to gamble with candy.
Cool.
We played poker when we'd go up to Ohio and visit, and she'd teach us. She'd give us all piles of candy, and we'd gamble them away.
I learned how to gamble on a church trip.
She also taught us strip poker, which was very. I'm just kidding. You didn't like that joke, did you? You learned to gamble on a church trip.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you learn to play strip poker on a church trip?
I mean, I guess same concept, but no.
Right.
We didn't
gambling
practice.
items of clothing.
Right.
Yeah. Did you win? Were you good?
No.
My grandmother also taught me how to play spades, and she'd cuss at me when we'd talk across the table. My grandma Drita was awesome. She'd flip you off in a heartbeat.
One time we played poker for milkshakes.
That is true. I think I won that. Did I not?
I think. It was in your house, which was where your brother lived, and then after that was where I lived.
And then after that, that's where Ryan's sister lived. There's, just all kinds of, And I'm related to Kevin Bacon, so the whole 6 degrees of separation thing, that house.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on.
Moving on.
Those were the topics. Let's move on to the news with the podcast, guys. That's us. All right, let's see what we got here. Shuhei Yoshida has responded to criticism of No Man's Sky. I'm going to toss this up here on the screen. This is from over on GameSpot, written by, I don't know who it's having a hard time loading, apparently. Our boy Eddie, I'm going to just go ahead and say. It was. All right. So it says, No Man's Sky was one of the most hyped games this year. So when it finally came out in August, it faced the uphill battle of living up to what people expected it to be. Now, PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida has said the strategy that Hello Games and director Sean Murray took of discussing features that didn't make it into the launch version might not have been the best way to go. Quote, I understand some of the criticism, especially Sean Murray is getting, because he sounded like he was promising more features in the game from day one. It wasn't a great PR strategy, end quote. This is what Yoshida told Eurogamer. So Hello Games is a small independent studio. Yoshida said part of the problem might have been that Murray apparently did not have a PR person or team to help him determine what he should and shouldn't say. Indeed, a number of features that Murray discussed were not included in the launch version of No Man's Sky. However, Murray has talked about adding new features to the game over time as free DLC, including base building and more. Yoshida said he's eager to see where the game goes in the future. Quote, Murray says their plan is to continue to develop No Man's Sky's features and such, and I'm looking forward to continuing to play the game, end quote. Then he went on to talk, and just to clear some things up, a lot of stuff has been misquoted in this article about what Yoshida said. They kind of stop at the PR part, which is a pretty damning sentence in and of itself, and we can talk about that in a minute. But he also said this, quote, I am super happy with the game, actually, and I'm amazed with the sales the game has gotten, so I'm not the right person to judge if it has quote unquote harm the Sony the PlayStation brand. I personally don't think so. If anything, I am proud that people can play No Man's Sky on PS4 as well as PC, end quote. Now, he works for Sony. This game's making a whole bunch of money for Sony. Like, so take it with a grain of salt, if you will. But as many times as I've listened to Yoshida in interviews, he is a very genuine and very honest person. And I feel like if he wasn't happy with the game, he would have said right there that he wasn't happy with the game. He said he wasn't happy with aspects of the game, and that's totally understandable. Mm-hmm. But just a few things missing doesn't mean that the whole thing in and of itself is bad or harmful. So my question here is, my first question is responding to this and how Shuhei went about it to that first part about the PR thing. What did you take from that?
I don't know. I feel like the problem was less of a PR thing and more of the guy just they didn't deliver on what they said they would do. That's not a PR problem. Mm-hmm. They just failed to accomplish what they set out to accomplish. I don't know. That was weird to me.
Yeah. Well, your PR is responsible for how you communicate what it is it's going to be in the final product. And so I do think sometimes Murray talked more about what he wanted the game to be more so than what the game actually was. And to talk about features before those features had been finalized in the game is a really difficult thing to kind of wrap our heads around. And so what we have to remember about game development, and I only speak from like an anecdotal level of what I've heard other people talk about. I've never developed a game, but I did theater when I was in school. And one of the things that we talked about with new people who came in when they'd start freaking out with 2 weeks to go and it didn't feel like anything was coming together is that the first good run of your show is always the opening night. Like that's the whole time you were practicing and getting this thing together, it never feels like it's completed, never feels like it's ready. You always feel like you're pausing to fix something or to have a conversation about something. And I feel like game development is probably very, very similar, where you don't really start to have a game until right up to when you're supposed to go gold with it. So I think it's a little unrealistic to say, hey, don't talk about a feature being in the game until you're absolutely sure it's in the game, because I don't think any company ever does that.
Yeah.
But I do think you have to be able to talk publicly about your game with the context of the size of the team that you have. And you're a very small indie studio who Sony has helped out financially, and probably they've outsourced some of the work, but when it comes down to the deep mechanics of the game, that's all on the studio, and you need to be confident that what you're saying is actually going to make it in. And then he also said things like there will never be paid DLC, stuff like that. Like you'll never have to pay for these updates. And then had to backtrack on those when he realized, like, oh, I'm going to have to make money off of these updates in order to pay the people who have made these updates. Like those are things that PR people can come in and kind of clean up. Like, look, you can't just promise free crap.
Yeah.
So I think people are frustrated not so much with the product itself, but more of the framing of the product and the loftiness of the promises that were made about the product. So I don't know. To an extent, I give Hello Games a pass, but when it comes down to it, they were asking people to shell out $60 for something that they didn't quite deliver on what they said that $60 was going to buy them. And I think we have just as much a right to go after Hello Games for something like that as we did with Destiny and Activision and Bungie when we were delivered something that wasn't what was promised before. It doesn't matter how big your studio is. $60 spends the same for an indie game as it does for a AAA title,
Yeah.
and we have the right because of that money to criticize.
Right.
So, my other question to you is this: do you think this whole snafu with the with No Man's Sky has damaged the Sony brand?
Not on its own. And I think Sony did a great job of recovering from it because they issued refunds on this, did they not?
They did, but they didn't. But they did, sort of, but they also kind of didn't.
Okay.
So the whole thing about the refunds is the people that were getting the refunds, it was because it was the very first time they had asked for a refund. And Sony has a goodwill policy where, hey, if you've never asked for a refund before, we'll give you a refund, but you're never allowed to ask for a refund ever again.
Okay.
So this was the first game that a lot of people got pushed to that edge on.
Gotcha. Okay, never mind then. I don't know that it'll reflect terribly on PlayStation, on Sony. Like, it'll hurt a little bit, but it falls in the context of a lot of things being delayed and pushed back. Like, I don't know. This is not Sony's strongest moment in this generation right now.
It does kind of feel, and correct me if you don't think so, it does kind of feel like the very first time in the last 3 years that Sony has been vulnerable.
Yeah.
To slipping behind the Xbox. I feel like Xbox has gotten a lot of things right since E3, and Sony has got a lot of things wrong since E3.
Yeah.
And we talked last week about the PlayStation 4 Pro. We're talking now about No Man's Sky, and we've been talking about delays like The Last Guardian, a bunch of other things. It almost feels like VR at this moment is much more of a make or break for Sony than it was 6 months ago. And I'm curious to see if this negative press that Sony's been receiving for this last 6 weeks is really going to damage VR, or if it's going to be something so completely out of the realm of everything else Sony does that it's going to rise up and create a lot of excitement. So be very, very interesting to see, if I do say so myself. So, next item on the list. The Resident Evil 7 demo has set some brand new records for demos on the PS4. This is over on PlayStationLifestyle.net from Jason Dunning. This is previously confirming the news in a message to ambassadors. Capcom has officially announced that the Resident Evil 7 teaser beginning hour demo has seen over 2 million downloads worldwide. Currently only available to PlayStation Plus members, the RE7 demo is also the most downloaded single-player demo on PS4 in the first 7 days of release for North America. Quote, "We would like to thank all of our fans for the feedback and support. The nail-biting exploration and terrifying atmosphere in the demo is just a taste of what can be expected when the game releases on January 24th, 2017, end quote, Capcom adds. So, this has been wildly successful, also considering the number of limitations that are put on to the people that are able to experience it. So, this is really cool to me, but it leads me to a much bigger question. Larry,
Yes.
you and I are both horror fans.
Uh-huh.
Fans of the horror genre.
Uh-huh.
So, I feel like in the last, how many years would you say? 2 or 3 years? There's been this sudden resurgence of horror. Like a real attachment to horror and all things horror. That it's really eked its way back into the mainstream of media in across the gamut of platforms. So why do you think that is?
All kinds of reasons.
Here we go.
So the first one I think that a lot of it can be chalked up to the success of The Walking Dead. Zombieland, one of my favorite movies of all time, was supposed to be a television series. That's why none of the main characters die. Spoiler alert. They all live through it because it's supposed to be this continual episode thing. But no studio wanted to take the chance on it being a TV show because they didn't believe people would watch a show with zombies in it. And then AMC takes a risk on The Walking Dead, and boom, it proved that it could be a genre that had some popularity to it. So I think that's one thing, is that people realize that, oh, this is something we can take a risk on, and it might work out pretty good.
That's interesting, though. I want to talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
as far as The Walking Dead I do feel like it has kind of ushered us into horror, but I also really wouldn't categorize The Walking Dead into horror because, especially in the later seasons, the thing that makes it so horrific gets moved into the background so much. And I mean, even in the earlier phases, like horror is completely thrusted forward by the monster or by the situation around it, whereas with The Walking Dead, the zombies just are kind of a context in it. And so it's a different feel. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well why it feels so different, but the Walking Dead's more about the drama than it is about the horror.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the conversation you and I were having earlier about a podcast we listened to. Like, there's horror designed to scare you, but then there's horror that is just that's the thing that it is. Mm-hmm. Like, and although the monster horror has faded to the background, now there's more of a focus on the horror that exists just within what humans can be, I think. So, yeah, it's not like creeping me out, but it definitely belongs in the horror genre, I think.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I wasn't trying to argue it wasn't horror. It's just not the kind of horror that I feel like. I think it is a gateway into the horror that has become more popular. So, go ahead. Which is what you were saying, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the second one there will be some disagreement among some people on this, but my worldview, I believe that we all have this within us, this longing for the spiritual side of things. And as our culture becomes, as belief in spirituality decreases in our culture, I think people are more hungry for that and more hungry for mystery as we just believe that we have everything figured out. And so I think that these things where you can explore those ideas are gaining traction among people. I think that's part of it. Mm-hmm. And I think to a point it's tied to some of the hopelessness we experience as a culture. Ghosts and things. We want to have this idea that there is some afterlife or that we can actually survive some horrific situation like zombies. Mm-hmm. I think all those things tying together are what are bringing about this resurgence. I don't know.
Yeah. There's no better genre of art than horror to place yourself in the middle of it, to wonder how would I respond. You don't get that in comedies or romantic films or even dramas or anything like that. It's really just in the horror, thriller, suspense area where you think, how would I have dealt with that?
Relevant Magazine ran an article last year around October, I believe, talking about how horror is really the last genre in existence that really consistently explores good and evil in black and white concepts. We've made everything sort of relative and everything's gray, but in this one genre we can be like, this is what evil is and this is how you avoid becoming the evil thing.
And it's one of the only genres where you can enter in and not know how it's going to end. Like so many genres, it's like it's got to tie up in this kind of happy, we walk off into the sunset kind of deal. Whereas horror can leave you anywhere. Yeah, it can have a happy ending, but it can also have a super confusing ending, a super unhinged ending, a very unsettling ending. Anything, like as hard as it is to end horror, I feel like there has been some horror lately. It Follows has a fantastic ending. I feel like The Witch's ending was really good. You didn't like The Witch as much as I did.
And I'll say this for the viewers. You've heard me say this before. I didn't dislike The Witch because it was a bad horror movie. I disliked it because it was too good at being horror. Like, it was real evil.
Yeah. And that was one of the points I was going to make is with the advancements in technology that we have, it's not as kitschy as it used to be to do horror. It used to be with horror, you had to do something either incredibly psychological and suspense ridden, or you just did something so over the top that it almost became laughable. Mm-hmm. The original Evil Dead movies and stuff like that, where it's like these practical effects that at the end of the day, you walk away from that movie and you're like, oh, that was awesome how they did that, and like you talk about that special effect. Whereas now, those things can look real. I remember you talking about the Evil Dead remake and how you almost left.
Yeah,
because it was so disturbing.
Yeah, I don't do well with realistic portrayals of blood loss.
Right.
and I leaned over to my wife and I said, Jess, I think I want to leave. And if you don't, it was during the period of the movie with, if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, this isn't spoilery enough to cause problems for you. But the period of the movie with the needle and the bread knife.
Right.
I look over at Jess and I say, I want to leave. And she says, all right, well, let's go. And I was like, I don't think I can walk down the stairs. And I was like trembling and dripping sweat. It was bad, man.
So I think as we have less to distract us from what the creators who are writing these tales are trying to say, the better horror gets. And so it's a much better product now than even it was, 5-10 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I've been a horror fan all my life because my parents were. and like my favorite genre is 80s horror movies. I love but even those were just stupid most of the time.
Yeah.
But horror has reached a place where it's a serious genre, and it's not always super cheesy, and it's not like you get movies now that actually have good acting in them.
Yeah.
Like that's typically horror movies do not have good actors.
Well, they were the stomping grounds or the place where you went to have your career die.
Yeah.
Like it was one or the other.
I think I'm blanking on their names, but the guys who did the Saw movies, and then people were like, well, you only make gore movies. So then they made Insidious and Sinister.
Mm-hmm.
I think they deserve a lot of credit in bringing scary back to horror.
And I think that is the biggest leap right now. I mean, that's the biggest lesson for me right now of how horror has only gotten better in the last, whenever the first Insidious came out 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
Because to me, Insidious, when it first came out, was by far one of the scariest movies that have come out. But I feel like there's been so much since then that has been far scarier.
Yeah.
And It Follows, The Witch, The Babadook, those sorts of things. I haven't seen The Babadook yet, but people talk about how terrifying these movies are. Sinister. What's the other one? The Conjuring. Those sorts of movies that just took. They're taking horror over the top. They're not taking gore over the top. They're not trying to trump one another in kind of these gimmicky ways. They're really trying to trump one another in the how can we scare and unsettle the people that are watching it. And because that's where kind of horror finds its sweet spot with me is where it gets me to leave and like feel like it had done something to me. And that's why The Witch was so good to me, like because it felt like it did something to me when I left out of it. So let's talk about horror game.
Wait,
go ahead.
One more reason to throw in there. I think for a lot of people, this is part of why I enjoy it. This is why I'll be going to haunted houses over the next month or so. The adrenaline kick. The news makes it seem like we live in this terrible, horrible, everybody's going to die soon type of age. But realistically, you look at the numbers, we are in the safest place in the safest period in human history.
Yeah.
Like, there's no danger in your life, really. Like, you may wind up being the unfortunate recipient of some accident or some attack, but more than likely you're going to die of some disease or natural causes. And that's awesome. But alongside that, there's like, I feel like a lot of people feel this, like there's no real adventure left in the world. And it's a genre where you can climb in and for a little bit anyway, there's like this, your heart gets pumping.
Yeah.
And that's fun.
So I want to talk about horror games just for a second, because I don't really feel like there is a genre that we can point to something as clearly as we can to PT to say that was a moment of refocusing. PT dropped in 2014 during Gamescom and just swept not just the horror people by storm, but like didn't just take the horror people by storm, but took PlayStation 4 gamers by storm. People who had no interest in horror games jumping into PT and seeing just how amazing horror can be done now with our graphical capabilities and our excellent storytellers and producers that are working on these games to make these awesome experiences and
the peripherals, like using the mic and stuff to. Yeah, that was neat.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't remember a time ever. I mean, there are big moments like your first 3D game, or the first game to use voice acting, stuff like that are kind of monumental. But PT is really the one kind of experience that said, let's go back to something. Let's refocus on what horror is about, and it's not about how many monsters we can get on a screen, and it's not how many bullets we can go shredding through people. It's about suspense, and again, it's about making the game feel like it's doing something to you, which is what PT did such a great job of. And so I think that's why you have people. I think that's why you have Resident Evil 7's demo being what Resident Evil 7's demo is, which is a series of puzzles that some people we haven't even figured out the solution to some of them.
That's a great example, because if there is one horror series that had gotten off track, it was Resident Evil. It had become an action series, basically.
Yeah.
And since PT, like, they have definitely refocused. This game's going to be scary, and I haven't gone to a Resident Evil game looking for something scary in a long time.
Yeah. So I'm excited about what Resident Evil can be. I get more and more excited about horror games. I love these like first person thriller narrative kind of deals where like I love the idea of Allison Road, rest in peace, because that game got canceled.
What?
Yeah, that game got canceled.
When?
During our hiatus. That's why we never talked about it. So, but I just love that idea. I love those kind of games. All right, next item on the list, because I think we're rolling up on like an hour already. We got a ways to go here.
Oh, fine.
Hideo Kojima has responded to Metal Gear Survive. This is over on GameSpot. Our boy Eddie. He says, according to IGN, Kojima was asked if the idea for Survive came from his mind. He said, quote, "That's nothing to do with me," end quote. He went on to call out the game's use of zombies. Quote, "The Metal Gear games are about political fiction and espionage. Where do zombies fit in with it? In with that," end quote. He did say, however, that had he worked on Metal Gear Survive, it might be different. Quote, "If I had worked on that game, it would have had mechs in it," end quote, he said. Metal Gear Survive was announced during Gamescom in August. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. I just want to focus on Kojima, what Kojima said. So he basically calls out, hey, zombies don't fit in this universe, even though literally everything else fits in this universe, like a flying whale. But the zombies don't.
Yeah.
Not a good look, in my opinion. Do I think Metal Gear Survive's a great idea? No. Do I think it's probably going to bomb? Absolutely.
But it came across as, I'm bitter.
Yeah. I'm a little butthurt. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Her new boyfriend's hideous. He's ugly.
If I was still dating her, she'd have a mech.
That's right. So, I just kind of, this is another reason I kind of wish Kojima would just kind of hide away and do the Death Stranding stuff for a while, because I don't like stories like this. Like let Konami dig their own grave. You don't have to try to hand them the shovel. They're already in the middle of it, Yeah. And it just seems like a bad look when you're standing over top of it, helping get the dirt out for them. So
like everyone views them as the bad guy. Don't risk pulling any of that light on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, last item on the list. South Park: The Fractured Butthole has been delayed to 2017. South Park: The Fractured Butthole was set to release December this year, but is now delayed to early 2017. Ubisoft announced in a blog post, quote, "The development team wants to make sure the game experience meets the high expectations of fans, and the additional time will help them achieve this goal," end quote. This is basically the copy and paste of any kind of press release saying you're going to delay your game.
Yep.
Guys, you just need a little extra time, polish it up to deliver on the experience that we've promised. How about you just announce a game when you know it's going to come out? I'm getting tired of this.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I put that in there.
Yeah.
It got delayed. It's probably a good thing it got delayed. December's a weird time for a game to release anyway. Just push it out to the beginning of 2017. Whatever. You have any thoughts on that?
Nah.
Okay.
Except with that one being like a spoof of Civil War, I feel like the further you get away from Civil War, the
That's true. That's a good
less
point.
relevant it is.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
I don't know.
South Park has does a good job of being able to pull you back to remember, though.
Okay.
Like you can go back and watch reruns of South Park and, put your finger exactly on when it was done, even if it doesn't make specific mention of what it's spoofing or anything like that. You can always kind of get a sense and an idea of what it is that they're making fun of
Okay.
or commentating on. So, but yeah, that's a good point because they really jumped on the back of it with their E3 thing. So, all right, let's move on to everybody's favorite segment, the random question of the week. A random question of the week for the month for this week.
It doesn't make sense.
It makes all the sense in the world. It's my random question of the week. Larry,
Talk to me.
why is fall so freaking awesome?
Why isn't it?
Thursday's the beginning of fall. Me and you are both fall lovers.
We both love fall.
Read into that what you may. Why is fall so awesome, Larry?
Well, we've already talked extensively about one part. Horror everywhere.
Ooh, it's spooky.
Everywhere.
It's a spooky month.
I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. I meant to bring this up earlier.
Lay it on us. I was waiting for it. I didn't know when it was coming.
I forgot it. So Halloween is now officially the second most celebrated holiday in America,
Right after Arbor Day.
which some call Christmas. Arbor Day is the day you put lights on trees, right?
Right after Lee Jackson King Day. The most bipolar holiday of them all. Remember when that used to be a thing and then they were like, oh, wait, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let's split it up. Apparently, that was just Virginia. Did they do that in West Virginia?
I've never heard of this.
You've never heard of this?
No.
All right. This is all right. Hold on. I got to find out and make sure this isn't just a Henry County thing because it could very well be that too. It's backwards enough. All right. Go ahead. Talk to me about.
So it's second to Christmas in spending, and it's a big gap. It's like $600 billion to $6 billion. But you buy way more expensive things for Christmas than you do for Halloween. However, it may be more celebrated by more Americans than Christmas. That's not definite. Christmas is celebrated. Its estimate is between 90 and 97%, but Halloween is 95% of Americans celebrate. And me and the senior minister at my church were talking about this because he was shocked by that. And at first I was a little surprised, but the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what? No, it makes sense. Like, everybody takes their kids trick-or-treating. Lots of people decorate. We're all going to buy pumpkins.
We all go to costume parties and kiss somebody that we're related to by accident.
And even churches that are like real weird on this point and hate Halloween, what do? They have their own costume parties, which I'm sure are being lumped in as Halloween celebrations.
I was wondering if that counts.
I would count it.
Lee Jackson King Day was a holiday celebrated in the Commonwealth of Virginia from 1984 to 2000. This is according to a Wikipedia article. Robert E. Lee's birthday, January 19th, 1807, has been celebrated as a Virginia holiday since 1889. In 1904, the legislature added the birthday of Thomas J. Stonewall Jackson to the holiday, and Lee Jackson Day was born. In 1983, the United States Congress declared January 15th to be a national holiday in honor of civil rights leader Martin Luther King. Since 1978, Virginia had celebrated King's birthday in conjunction with New Year's Day. To align with the federal holiday, the Virginia legislature combined King's celebration with the existing Lee Jackson holiday. So basically, one day in 1978 or whenever, no, I'm sorry, in 1983, the entire Virginia legislature got drunk and took a vote on this thing. And they were like, it would make no more sense than to vote for somebody who fought for the South in slavery and also for basically the figurehead of the civil rights movement. And so after sobering up 17 years later in 2000, Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore proposed splitting Lee Jackson King Day into two separate holidays after debate arose over whether the nature of the holiday, which simultaneously celebrated the lives of Confederate generals and a civil rights icon, was incongruous. So basically, Jim Gilmore got hit upside the head and was like, oh, yeah, we should at least put a couple days in between the celebration of slavery, of fighting for slavery, and then, this civil rights worker.
You go, Virginia.
This is the greatest state in the union, guys. I was wondering why you'd never heard of it and why Lauren had never heard of it, because Because Lauren's from backwoods North Carolina, just like I'm from backwoods Virginia. But it was apparently just a Virginia thing. Virginia was the only drunk enough state to think this was a fantastic idea. And I also love how they were like, yeah, we'll celebrate Martin Luther King Day. We'll just bundle that in there with New Year's Day.
I'm from West Virginia. We left the Confederacy.
That's true.
We're not celebrating Confederate heroes.
That's true. All right. Anyway.
Fall. Halloween's awesome. Candy. Best candy. And another thing of why fall is awesome is pumpkin.
Oh, yeah.
And
Obviously.
of course.
I was going to make that point.
But the thing I want to point out with pumpkin is it's one of the few things now that is very much tied to a certain time of year. Like, I feel like there was a point where, like, lots of things were tied to specific times because, like, we were better at manipulating things to grow things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But pumpkin, man, it's in the fall. You got to wait.
Yeah.
And when you can only get things at a certain time, they're more special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I was a peppermint fan, I guess that would make winter. You know, because I feel like peppermint does kind of make like you can get peppermint whenever, but
yeah,
peppermint's in everything in the winter, which is why I hate winter, because I hate peppermint. Peppermint's disgusting.
I like peppermint.
So yeah, pumpkin's awesome. We've decided we're doing 31 days of pumpkin today. I mean not today, but yeah, we're gonna do 31 days of pumpkin. We're gonna eat one different pumpkin item a day, every day in October, and see just how much our feet turn into UGG boots.
Right.
So can we just go ahead and say pumpkin spice sausage is not going to be on the list?
Never.
We tried it last year. Number one, it had copious amounts of MSG in it, which almost sent me to an early grave. So don't want to do that again. But yes, I would prefer to do everything but that.
Ooh, I don't ever want to even see that again.
I'm also going to be drinking copious amounts of pumpkin spice sauce. Pumpkin spice coffee.
Of course.
So I also I hate the summer. The summer is my least favorite holiday. My list of season. My list of seasons goes fall, spring, winter, summer. Because I hate being hot because I'm fat, Larry. Larry, I'm fat. You may have never noticed, but I'm overweight. I wasn't at one time in our friendship. I am now.
Gosh, you ran so much and watched what you ate.
I know.
And then you got a wife, and you're like, well,
Giving up on this. God, that's literally the only reason.
You know, I'm not married yet. I better get a little more attractive.
Yep. So hopefully getting back on track. We joined the gym. I'm hoping to. But anyway. So I hate the summer because it's hot. And I am like next week it's supposed to be in the 70s all week, and I am so excited about it. I think that's the main reason I love fall, because like winter you ease into the heat. I feel like we get less and less of a spring now. I feel like it goes from 50 degrees to 80 degrees within the matter of like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But that 70s, 60s weather, like that's so good, and we're about to get like a month and a half of that, and it's just going to be amazing.
And it seems like you get a lot more overcast days, which as an Irish descending person I really like.
Yes.
When I don't have to see the sun.
And someone who just loves being melancholy.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Other reasons fall is great.
Leaves. I love the leaves. And Virginia is cool, but man, West Virginia, if you've never been there in the fall, you need to get there. It's on fire.
It's kind of
glorious.
It's kind of blowing my mind that stuff is already starting to change.
Yeah.
Like here we are in mid-September. I feel like you would. I also feel like I have, and I was thinking about this earlier. I was never the guy who like completely hated school.
Yeah.
Either. And fall was like during the summer, I didn't really grow up in a house where we were allowed to like go and like hang out with people all summer. So the fall meant I got to see my friends again. I got to, and especially like my junior and senior year, and then moving into my college days, like the fall was the time where my social life started to ramp back up. And fall like you said, fall in West Virginia is awesome. Fall in Knoxville is amazing as well. Like out in the Smoky Mountains is just glorious to look at. I don't ever go out in.
And back when we were kids, like you legitimately didn't go back to school till it was about fall.
Yeah.
Like these kids, I feel so sad for them.
So fall.
Anything else awesome about fall? I love October so much that it was almost my daughter's name.
How can I forget? Number one, football comes back, which is a pretty big deal. I love football. Number two, basketball comes back, far more important. Number 3, it's when big releases of video games are happening. All kinds of crap coming out. Fall's amazing, man. Like spring isn't even a close second to fall. Not even a close.
Apple cider.
Oh, gosh.
Do you like cider?
Yes.
Our college, like, I don't know if you experienced this or not. Were they still like going crazy with cider when you were like an incoming student?
No.
Man, did you come in the spring?
No.
Okay. Weird. My first year at Johnson, like, there were all these events for freshmen, and it was like cider everywhere.
Oh, that may be it. I never went to this.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's the problem.
Yeah, I'm so antisocial. I'm like, I'm gonna pick my friends, and I'm just gonna hang out with those 3.
Well, I was there for the cider and cookies. Who cares about people?
Exactly. I don't care enough about any of that. I can go to the grocery store and get that.
Not for free.
I don't need to go hang out with a bunch. Look, in my opinion, spending that much time around people is way more costly than the $6 I'll spend down at Walmart.
Our university president was like,
really awkward.
Yeah, he had no social skills. So that was always fun. I liked going and watching him try to interact with people. one time he came up.
Let's be fair. Not that you and I are social butterflies.
I can be.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I can fake it. But this guy, man, he'll like, you think you're in the middle of a conversation. He decides it's over and walks off. Like,
which, honestly, man, Luke Croft in, I don't know, probably 10, 20 minutes or so, that's probably going to be me, where I just straight walk off in the middle of conversations. Like, I'm telling you, man, retail's doing a number on me. I just don't care. Like, I'm just not going to waste my time. So, fall's so great, man.
It is.
Gosh, we love you, fall. All right, let's get out of here, Larry.
All right.
Let's go around the circle here. Who are you, Ben? Great. Larry?
I'm Larry. You can find me on Twitter at LarryHuntsZombies, LarHunts Zombies.
I'm Luke. You can find me on Twitter at TK from Antioch. Add me as a friend on Xbox Live at Download a Hoagie. Play Overwatch with us. YouTube.com/Player3Podcast. Twitch.tv/Player3Podcast. iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher. Check out TwoLeftSticks.com. Check out Cody Mellowkline, his piece on Sombra. That piece was so interesting.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It's cool.
Because people are crazy. Pay far too much attention. The best thing in life is to go through completely unaware. All right? Unless you one day realize we voted for Hillary Clinton to be president, despite the fact that she died on September 11th, 2016, and it's now a body double. All right? So this is the piece of advice I want to leave to you this week.
It doesn't really matter who the person is because the shadow government's pulling the strings
Well,
anyway.
that's right. With Jay-Z and Kanye, doing their thing and being the Illuminati and stuff. So here's my advice to you. Don't read anything. Don't watch the news. Don't stay informed. Don't get out and vote. All right? Because none of it actually matters. We are the Player 3 Podcast.